Hello and welcome back. I hope that you're all having a wonderful weekend, and I'm here with this story from people.com. And as we all know, there has been a documentary about Princess Diana from HBO titled The Princess. And I wanted to cover this article where the Princess Diana HBO documentary director said that he found, quote, interesting parallels to Meghan and Harry's story with the Diana documentary. So the article says this: the intense reaction to Prince Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from their royal roles in 2020 echoes the public perception and media treatment of Princess Diana, according to filmmaker behind the new Princess Diana documentary. Ed Perkins, the director of HBO's The Princess, tells people that he felt those parallels as he delved into the archives of Princess Diana's life for his documentary, just as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex relocated from London to California. For a space of about a month or two, it seemed like Harry and Meghan were the only things people were talking about, Perkins said. Very few people were apathetic, and it reminded me of the response I was seeing in the archive from 25 or 30 years previously, where for the entirety of Diana's public life, we were dissecting everything, end quote. He went on to say people had strongly polarized opinions all the way throughout her life and after her death, and it did feel interesting that there was a sort of similar national conversation happening 25 years later. In The Princess, which aired on August the 13th on HBO Max, Diana's story is told exclusively through archive footage and commentary. The producers watched an astonishing 1,000 hours of film to pull together the narrative, which explores Princess Diana's complex relationship with the media from the early days of her romance with Prince Charles to their headline-making breakup and her tragic passing 25 years ago. Diana's story is told, as it were, the present day, which provides a unique viewpoint for the viewer as events unfold almost in real time. Our intention was to create a film that first and foremost felt kind of emotionally driven and immersive, and that we would give audiences the space to kind of come to their own conclusions and bring their own hindsight to bear on this story, Perkins told People. The film's format makes for emotional viewing as it highlights the intense media intrusion into every aspect of Diana's life. Early interview footage with Diana and Charles also offered a unique glimpse into their relationship and marriage. We've really tried to, in good faith, make the film that we found in the archive and we feel is fair and balanced, Perkins said. It would be wrong to tell the story without talking about press excesses, the paparazzi that you see following Diana. It's right that we talk about that. It was a big part of the story, he said. But this film isn't about assigning blame. And the story is more complicated than that. The truth is that we, the people, created a demand for newspaper articles or for pictures. Yes, this film is ostensibly about Diana, but actually the really interesting thing for me is, what does Diana's story say about all of us? What does it say about our relationship to the monarchy more widely? And what does it say about our relationship to celebrity? I think it's important to have that kind of adult conversation about our role in the story, he said. The story is both a, quote, sensitive and, quote, complicated one, Perkins admits, and concedes it's probably not a story that the royal family is desperate to continually revisit for obvious reasons. I came out the other end of it actually feeling a lot more sympathetic towards specific characters involved and the challenges that those roles that they are born into put upon them, the filmmaker said. They are, quote, human beings with flaws and fallibilities, but living in this very complicated and sensitive position in society. They are trying to do a very difficult job well and don't always get it right. Ultimately, it's the story of a woman who spent half her life as the most famous person in the world, he said, and that's an extraordinary thing to even comprehend. She had this sort of extraordinary ability to disarm people, Perkins told People. It's not just because she was a princess and she was famous, but she had this intrinsic ability to put people at ease and effect change in their lives at that moment and really make people feel like they're the most important person, that they're being listened to, Perkins went on to say. We have kind of consumed the analysis and reanalysis of the story by osmosis, whether it's from watching The Crown or the endless newspaper front covers that are still about Diana, and we've all created our own views and perspectives. We all kind of bring our own baggage to this story, he said. And so our hope is to try to tell the story with the lightness of touch and give audiences the respect and the space to come to their own conclusion and bring that hindsight to bear, end quote. So there we have it. What a great read through. And by the way, Sundance said of The Princess that this is the definitive Princess Diana documentary, according to them. And of course, the emphasis is that this documentary is told strictly through archival clips. And this is an interesting quote by Rolling Stone. The use of nothing but archival footage to recount Diana's rise and her perpetual, quote, trial by television and her fall isn't a gimmick. It's a stroke of genius, a jujitsu finishing move on her tormentors. It was the media, after all, that helped coronate her as the people's princess, showing the world an actual fallible human being living among royals that seemed to treat human behavior like a luxury or a liability. It was the media that documented how the public loved her, sometimes in the most ironic and extreme ways. Yet, it was the media that constantly cut her down, held her under a microscope, blinded her with a spotlight, then, I'll paraphrase here, whinged about her holding a press conference in which she begged to be left alone. So the documentary's decision to re-examine the spectacle that made and broke the princess might not have been politically motivated, Rolling Stone goes on to say. It definitely doubles an indictment against a cottage industry and a nation's journalistic apparatus at large that uses their own abundant materials as evidence against them. You get a ringside seat to how Britain's cultural mouthpieces viewed Diana. So one more thing that they point out is that the nightly news and the competing dailies turned the dissolution of her marriage into a national soap opera, amplifying every time that Charles was miffed over his charismatic wife effortlessly charming crowds and stealing attention away from him. And it also covers the competing tell-all books from the House of Windsor that hit the market, as the documentary maker has pointed out that this was all about putting that spotlight and reassessing through this archived footage the record of how the public consumed the story of Diana through the media. And he asked a question, what does this story say about us and about what we still consume and the demand we create? He himself noted that there were some glaring parallels between what Princess Diana went up against as she joined the institution and the media coverage in comparison to what we have seen with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and how they too have been treated by the press and what they went up against as members of the royal family. And Perkins himself has stated that he was much less keen to make the princess until he saw the hounding of Meghan. These are his words. He said he saw history repeat. It wasn't just the spite of the papers. Something else had resurfaced. A giddy public investment in misogyny and soap. I'd thought Diana was overfamiliar, a bit of a dead end. Then I realized it was an origin story, not just about Meghan, but so much of modern Britain. And we have seen it in the Sussexes' rift with the royal family and how it's been played out across so many platforms, not only in the tabloid media, but also in the mainstream and on social media as well. And who can deny the Sussexes' experiences have mirrored those of Princess Diana in some ways, with vilification having the saint versus the sinner. And Meghan herself said, if you like certain members of that family, doesn't mean you have to hate on the others. And I wish that on social media and in the press that we would be known for that which we love. If you are a fan of particular couples in the institution, cover those. Don't make a point of hate covering, hate watching the Sussexes. It just doesn't make sense to me. If you don't like to see something, turn it off. Don't make it a source of revenue. And no one's curbing free speech, but I think it does say something about, society and culture. And I think this is what the documentary maker said. What does it say about not only those who are printing these stories and putting them out there in, whatever platform, but about those who are consuming them repeatedly? It's the demand as well that has, that two-sided coin to this as well, right? Supply and demand. So yeah, we cannot deny the fact that the rift between the Sussexes and the royal family has taken on a lot of the trappings of, big media PR. And at the heart of this are real people. And I think Prince Harry pointed that out as Meghan joined the fold just from the get-go, when some sections of the media called her straight out of Compton, almost, talking about exotic DNA, covering her in the strangest of lights. And people who've come out and said that there is money in casting aspersions on her. If you have something negative to say about her, there's a revenue source. If you can talk about how she is displaying certain personalities, you can get paid for that as a quote expert. And at the core of this are real people who are hurting. And I think people should remember this. I think there does need to be eventual healing. People need to sit down and talk about, the crux of all this. And I think that people should look to what happened between Princess Diana and Charles and how people can take that as an example from history on how things can be made worse and how things can be made better and really stop the escalation. And I've pointed this out before on this channel. We've seen the double standards of how Meghan especially has been covered. Prince Harry has gone through it for sure. Him being a prince, him being a part of that institution by birth has afforded him a certain kind of buffering against, the extreme harshness that could come against him. But Meghan, she's borne the brunt of it. And I think a lot of us can say that for sure. We've had all types of stories out about her, from the ridiculousness about the avocados and the comparisons of how, her avocados could bring on conflict in nations. And when other members were gifted such, it was a sweet gift. We've seen Meghan, she's called domineering, others are called loving, intimate. Meghan has been called a bully, but I'm sure in all the hundreds of years of that institution, no member that is born royal or married into that family before Meghan has ever been rude to any staff member there. It was Meghan. But no, we all know that there have been complete parallels of this with Princess Diana herself. She was also called a bully. Princess Diana too was also accused of domineering Prince Charles as well. And there's an interview where she's asked about that. There have been some very strange parallels across the board, and I hope lessons are being learned. Right now, we're having Prince Harry fighting for something so basic, the son of a future king, fighting for basic protection, and he's willing to pay, and it's being held out. Yet, the UK taxpayer is paying about $500,000 to support other members there who are stepped back, who pay millions of pounds to people they've never met. Things are not adding up. We've seen how the Duchess of Sussex has been vilified, as a bully, people picking her apart, people wanting to tear her down, not only her, the Duke of Sussex. And I think at the core of this, a lot of people have pointed out that it has had quite a few undertones of misogyny, of racism, of jealousy as well. I think when they went on their royal tour to to New Zealand and on, people started hearing Duchess Meghan being called, the people's princess. That word was starting to be floated around, and I think some people may not have been happy about that. And I've heard, other royal commentators saying that when people saw their star rising, that the Sussexes needed to be knocked down a peg. And as I pointed out before, the documentary The Princess does talk about how Prince Charles did not like playing second fiddle to, his upcoming bride, his young bride, and everyone was telling him to move out of the way, children chanting for his wife, and the crowds cheering when Diana went to their side of the street. And it is an extraordinary coverage of not only how the media covered her and irresponsibility in the coverage. And we do see once again the irresponsibility sometimes on platforms, in media, and the power of jealousy, I think. And it's chilling, it really is. And I think Prince Harry has learned quite a few lessons. And he, as said before, he's not going to let history repeat itself. If the environment wasn't working for him, he was willing to step back and move his wife and his kids away. They were not going to be scapegoats for anyone. They were not going to take part in the game, in quotes. They were not going to take part in the whole saint versus sinner narrative and them being the scapegoats, and Meghan particularly being the scapegoat. Meghan making so-and-so cry, Meghan, bullying, and all the stories that have taken place. Meghan, how she was allegedly even mean to the neighbors round about her when she was in the UK. How, the stories just came out, story after story. And the whole moon bump conspiracy, come on, people. So once again, as we talk about the Princess documentary, there's this quote that just stood out. It said, "When you put a modern person in an ancient institution, they will be destroyed. But once an institution starts destroying people, it's time to recognize there is something fundamentally wrong with that institution and not the people it destroys." So this brings it back to the point I said earlier when we talk about the whole media and the PR spin of some of these very public rifts. And we saw it with Prince Charles and Diana, the endless books that were coming out from both ends, the criticism, whether deserved or not, the other people who authored books on their behalf to fight in the PR wars, the mouthpieces that were always on taking sides. And what we've seen today, once again, repeating itself. We've seen many books coming out. We've seen a lot of PR spin. We've seen a lot of criticism. And not saying that, people are 100% perfect, whatever side you back, but we've got to realize, as I said before, there needs to be some level of accountability, even as people are talking about free speech. And we have to remember one thing. Sometimes you can absolutely see the PR for what it is. You can see the spin for what it is. It's about sometimes tarnishing some people's images, about having black sheep, about making sure that there is a villain to the story. And it is quite astonishing as you see it happening once again in the present day, how people strive to put together narratives about, people who they're trying to paint a certain way in media. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, what is all this picking sides about and the camps about? And I'm going to put this out here. This is very interesting to me. We saw Tyler Perry a few days ago come out and, wish Meghan a happy birthday and talked about how he had seen her, overcome, tremendous obstacles, and he called her a princess. And lo and behold, there were a few articles out correcting everyone. You saw a few pieces coming out saying that it was not correct to call her Princess Meghan. But yet, if you really look deeply, we know that she's the Duchess of Sussex. We know that correctly it is Princess Henry. But do you also know that it was not exactly Princess Diana as well? Her title was Diana, Princess of Wales. That's how it was supposed to be said. But people abbreviate these things. I think if people started calling Princess Catherine, not many people would have a problem with that. But why was it all of a sudden such a huge problem when it was Meghan? Why were there a few articles out to correct us? I don't think that many people had gripes with it being Princess Diana. We know that the official title, the way it should be worded, was Diana, the Princess of Wales. The same way that it is, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, but we call her Duchess Meghan. People say Duchess Kate, Duchess Catherine. I think I've even seen a cover with Princess Catherine out, and I do not believe that there were articles following up to correct us on how she should be called. So, stuff like that. Sometimes it's the big things, sometimes it's the small things. But all in all, I want to know your thoughts. Are people learning the lessons as we now take a look at this unique coverage of Princess Diana through this archived footage and commentary as we compare that to what we've seen with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex? I would like to know your thoughts in the comment section. Once again, as I always encourage us in the comment section to rise above, we're not going to turn into a hate comment section. So I'll just urge us all to be mindful of, our comments in the comment section as we share our thoughts below. Thank you all for watching. I love you all, and a special thank you to those who support my channel, to my Patreon, PayPal, and membership supporters. I would like to say a heartfelt thank you, and I want to give a shout out to a few supporters of this channel. Thank you so much right now to you, Nutty Doctor. Thank you for your support for this channel. Thank you as well to you, Dorothy Roz. I appreciate you supporting these videos. And I want to give a special thank you and shout out right now to Anna Thorne. I appreciate you so much. And I would also like to thank Corliss J. McClendon, another longtime supporter of this channel. Many thanks. God bless you. Thank you so much for giving towards my work on this channel. Your love and support, of course, as always, means so much to me. I never take it for granted, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to those who like, comment, and share. Once again, leave your thoughts below. I'd love to know them, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a blessed one.